Mercenaries is on its way. The Treasure Map DLC explained, future DLC rumored to be planned. You guessed it. We have a massive DLC update coming to you right now. First of all, Resident Evil 4 Remake is finally out, and I have been having a great time with it, but I want to know from all you who have been playing it, are you enjoying the game? I want to hear from you all in the comments. All footage on screen is real early gameplay from my playthrough with no spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that here. This video is all about DLC, so before we get into the Mercenaries news, let's talk about the current DLC for this remake. For those who did not purchase the deluxe edition of the game, which included a variety of costumes, weapons, the original game's soundtrack, Treasure Map DLC, and more, well, I am happy to confirm that owners of the standard edition can purchase any of the deluxe edition DLC from their platform store. Accessible from within the main menu is a link that will send players to their platform's store, where players can access any of the DLC, similar to the previous Resident Evil games. While the original soundtrack is a very popular DLC, one of great contention pre-release was the Treasure Map DLC, in which some fans, like myself, were worried that this would essentially make the game much easier by including more valuable treasures for players throughout the game, giving players a big advantage by having players earn a lot more pesetas to redeem for better equipment. For those who are unaware, the Treasure Map DLC simply puts in additional treasures around the game map. I am happy to say that upon completing the game with this Treasure Map DLC, that it didn't add too much in the sense of treasures that I felt overpowered if I otherwise didn't have it. Most of the treasures this DLC contains are silver tokens, a reward to spend on the randomly acquired case charms from the shooting range. The occasional spinel, rubies, sapphires, and the like to slot into a slottable treasure. Almost all of these treasures are hanging from the ceiling in these containers, and never felt like there were an overabundance of them. For those that have the Treasure Map DLC, what are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments if you think this Treasure Map DLC is worth having. For those who are enjoying the game and are itching for even more Resident Evil 4 Remake action, players don't have to wait long at all until the Mercenaries DLC arrives for free on April 7th, 2023. Yes, that's right, my friends, the DLC is free of charge, and will bring with it the highly requested and much loved Mercenaries mode, a mode that tasks the player to defeat as many enemies as possible within an enclosed map and limited resources. Originally, this mode was unlocked after completing the main campaign, so we'll have to see if that requirement is still here, although that shouldn't even be an issue. A lot of speculation has been going on for this version's Mercenaries mode, as the Resident Evil fanbase in particular is interested in getting a Mercenaries mode that is more in line with the original RE4 game and not that of the most recent Mercenaries mode in RE Village. Let's get into why this is important for longtime fans of the original, but for those not familiar with the mode in general, I'll outline it briefly for you. In the original RE4, players were tasked with choosing one of several characters to defeat and survive against a never-ending onslaught of enemies. Each character had its own unique loadout and special ability, like Leon with his kicks and suplexes, Krauser with his arm lunge, Hunk with his neck snapping, and my personal favorite, Wesker, with his rocket punch. To add, Leon is the only playable character from the beginning, but more characters are unlocked upon achieving enough stars on a map. Ada Wong is also playable in this mode, bringing the total roster of characters in the original RE4 Mercenaries mode to 5, and upon selecting a character, players choose one of 4 maps to play on. The great thing about these maps in the RE4 version of Mercenaries is the verticality and breathing room you have within these maps, which largely resemble exact locations within the main game, like the castle and the village, other than the dockyard, which is unique to the mode. These maps are quite spacious, with nooks and crannies dotted along the sides of them or perched atop vantage points containing valuable ammo, time extenders, and the like. I appreciate this Mercenaries format much more over the more recent RE Village, because that game's Mercenaries feels more claustrophobic, with a touch of randomness thrown in there with the various blue orb powers that you could pick up that enhance various parameters to your attributes, like movement speed, reload speed, headshot damage increases, and the like. Instead of having an entire round play out within the confines of a single open map, like in Resident Evil 4, RE Village's Mercenaries mode takes players on a linear trek through many of the game's featured locations, like Castle Dimitrescu, the factory, the village, and more. Village's Mercenaries mode linked several miniature sections together, and upon making it through one section, the player would spawn in front of the Duke to alter his or her loadout before progressing to the next section. While the game's Mercenaries has some fun elements to it, I am really hoping that we get some classic RE4 Mercenaries here, all remade featuring the stellar graphics, the main campaign sports, and focusing on each character's loadouts and unique abilities. I mean, rocket punching Ganados with Wesker is easily one of the original's highlights, right? And snapping necks with Hunk? The OG RE4 Mercenaries mode is pure arcade carnage at its finest, and one that would find a great home here in Resident Evil 4 Remake. I only hope that Capcom go with this format of Mercenaries mode here, as it plays into the strengths of Resident Evil 4 Remake in general, by providing faster, more intricate combat, with the areas designed to make players quickly traverse and stay active along each of the 4 unique maps. Although no information has been revealed about what the Mercenaries mode in Resident Evil 4 Remake is going to entail, like playable characters, maps, format, and the like, we won't have to wait long at all, as the Mercenaries will be a free update and will launch in less than 2 weeks on April 7th. Fingers crossed this Mercenaries mode pays homage to the brilliance and flow of the original, but hey, we can't argue with free DLC, right? Especially if it's Mercenaries. I want to know from all of you, are you looking forward to the Mercenaries mode? What style of Mercenaries are you most interested in? Let me know in the comments. Another bit of DLC speculation is that if Ada were to be included in RE4 Remake's Mercenaries mode, would that make her Separate Ways DLC more likely? Some fans have been speculating about it, mentioning that if she were to be playable in the DLC, that we will likely be getting her content. Now, I don't think that her being playable in Mercenaries has any real indicator that she will be getting her campaign mode in the future, but I will say that I wouldn't be surprised at all if Capcom were to include Separate Ways later down the line, just as RE4's second release, the PS2 version, got that mode included in the game about 6 months after the original GameCube version, which never had that mode. We've touched up on this in a previous video in which industry insider by the name of Dusk Golem, with a pretty good track record, has announced that Separate Ways is indeed in the making, and that it would be more substantial than the original mode first introduced on the PS2 version. Here is what he had to say on his post from Reset Era, with quote, "Yup, Separate Ways is down the line DLC. It'll be longer and more fleshed out than the original Separate Ways," end quote. Although Capcom hasn't acknowledged that Separate Ways is getting a home here in Resident Evil 4 Remake as part of a DLC, it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that it might be in the plans. After all, Resident Evil 4 Remake is receiving some DLC coming real soon with the Mercenaries mode, and we have the PSVR 2 support that will be coming at a later date. Due to the massive success of this game, and after hearing the demands and requests from the fans asking Capcom to put her campaign in the game, it would seem quite likely and would be in Capcom's best interest to make her DLC part of the game. Just don't go in expecting free DLC with Separate Ways if it were to come in this remake, although I have to admit, free Separate Ways DLC would indeed be awesome. And that's all we know about the game's DLC for now. Check this video out for more information about the costumes including in the launch DLC, and make sure to stay tuned to this channel as we have a lot more to go over with Resident Evil 4 Remake. Thanks a bunch for the awesome support, and I will see you real soon in the next one. Peace!